Hello, Sam from Sound on Sound magazine here. I'm at the AES show in New York, and with me is Todd from Softube. Hey Todd, how are you doing?
Great.
Excellent. Well, we're standing in front of what I think is probably going to be one of the biggest product launches at this year's AES show. Now, I saw a sneak preview of this many months ago, but I've been sworn to secrecy ever since, so I'm almost bursting to reveal this, which is the Softube Console 1 Fader.
Console 1 Fader, yes.
So tell us about the Console 1 Fader.
Okay, Console 1 Fader. What we're dealing with here are 10 full 100 millimeter throw Alps faders for use in your DAW. So we're using the same plugin to control our DAW as we have in the past. That's the Console 1 plugin. You could use Fader with itself on its own, just as Fader. You could use it with the original Console 1. You could use multiple instances of Fader. So if you want to have 2 faders and a Console 1 above it, it's your choice. We let you as the user determine your workflow.
Okay, cool. And for those of you who've seen fader-based control surfaces before, this one is a bit different. First of all, because it doesn't control your DAW, it controls the Console 1 plugin. It's also different in other respects. So tell us a little bit about what makes it distinctive.
Yeah, so in terms of the controlling the Console 1 plugin, it's that plugin that allows you to control the DAW. So by doing that, by having that Console 1 plugin thrown across every channel, that's what allows me to grab a fader and control it in my DAW, which is super nice. And we've spent a lot of time really just working on the touch sensitivity and just feel of these faders to really just give it the smoothest feel in the industry. But as you said, there's something else behind it. We've seen a lot of faders out there that control DAW volume in the past or make faders go up and down in the DAW. This one has a sound quality to it. What do I mean by that? You have the drive and character section from Console 1. So we're not only controlling DAW volume, but we're actually getting all those nonlinearities and nice organic, nice analog sound that you would get from all your favorite analog consoles.
So it really is a step closer to feeling like you're mixing on an analog console.
It's totally different, because now in the past, while you may take your certain tracks or your groupings and bring them up and try and get them to balance in your DAW and feel like things just aren't coming together exactly, this has a totally different feel. Because of that drive, as you start to bring things up, you start to hear some of the harmonics come together in a different way, and it really just changes the feel, almost like, as you said, you're mixing on an analog console.
And of course, one of the unusual things you've done here is almost every other DAW controller I can think of has 8 faders. Mm-hmm. You've gone with 10.
Yeah.
What's the thinking behind that?
So, well, the thinking is, it originally came from the idea that Console 1 ran from 1 to 20. So using 10 to fit into the 1 to 20 architecture made sense. But there are a few other things that make it a little nicer by having it as 10 faders. And that is, first off, when you're dealing with large track counts, let's say I have a 60 track session, I know how many times I need to hit page to bank through 10s a little bit faster than I would going through 8s. That's one thing. I also happen to teach at a university in the US, and I've worked with my students, and just to watch them try and navigate through 8s versus navigate through 10s is, you can instantly just see how, especially the younger generation of engineers is really drawn to 10 as opposed to 8. 8 comes from analog buckets. We're not dealing with analog buckets that we're removing and servicing anymore. So,
sure. And you've also got this large sort of rotary dial here. What does that do?
So the dial is a pan knob. So it's as simple as you select the track you want to adjust pan on, and you adjust your pan there. The cool thing, though, is when you hold shift, it actually becomes a stereo widener. So if you look over here, I could take it super wide and widen my stereo spread, or if I go counterclockwise, I could select the frequency to which I collapse to mono, or I could take a stereo track and make it completely mono.
That sounds very cool. So it follows on from the Console 1 ethos in that it's all designed to kind of lie under your hands and be intuitive to use without you having to kind of look up at the screen and go, oh no, this is controlling this on this plugin and that on that plugin.
Exactly.
It's a sort of design for immediacy. And is there any sort of transport facility built in?
So we have what we call 3 assignable buttons, and underneath them are silkscreen transport controls, because we assume that most people will be using them for transport. So if I turn off my display and hit the center one, which has a play button, you'll see my DAW starts playing. If I was to hit the left or right one, it'll jump to my left and right markers. However, you could assign them to any key command that you would like in your DAW. So if you would like it to turn cycle on and off, or you want to make it save, or you want to quit an application, or as I've been telling people, if you have a way to open and close your garage door, then go for it. But you can make them any 3 key commands you'd like.
Very cool. And I mean, one of the things about Console 1 is that because it depends on quite deep level integration with the DAW, it requires some support from the DAW manufacturer, which means you get basically different levels of integration with different DAWs. How is that the case with the new product?
Well, it's going to be the same in terms of the way those work. Most major DAWs have are fully integrated. So that means you are able to actually select the track and see it select on the screen. You're able to bring the faders up and down, solo and mute. Will solo and mute directly on the GUI. In certain DAWs, you won't actually see the changes physically, or you won't see them visually take place in the DAW, but you will sonically hear those changes. So what we're actually seeing is many people are starting to use this. Fewer people are looking at their mixer, because you could actually close this bottom section. We're in Studio One now, but you could close this bottom section, and this really becomes your mixer now. And we now start to use our ears more rather than visually making decisions. But for the most part, we're seeing more and more DAWs fully integrated, and that's a great thing.
And if I use a Console 1 and a Fader 1 together, do they sort of follow each other around, as it were?
They do. It's excellent. So if I, let me do this here. So I'm controlling Fader 1, and you can see it going up and down. But if I select the track up here on Console 1 and use the volume control here, you'll see that the fader here, or the knob here, is controlling the fader here, and also in the DAW. So everything is fully integrated from the DAW to Console 1 to fader. So due to the touch sensitivity on fader, it's really nice. You can touch a fader and instantly see on the screen what fader you're on because of the way they light up. Now what we're looking at now is a screen that is showing Console 1 and fader connected together. If, for instance, I removed Console 1 and only wanted to use fader on its own, our computer will recognize that only fader is connected, and you'll see a display such as this. Let's take a look at what this looks like. In this mode, we've got our track playing, and I could do things such as add a low cut by holding low cut and coming on in, and you can see that the GUI will show us that low cut taking place. Same thing if I wanted to do a high cut. We can make a high cut in there. We could also do our loading of drive up here, or loading of channel strips. Difference between a drive and a channel strip will be the drive section, the output drive, along with the low and high cut filters. The drive will only be the output drive. So you could start to pair different drive characteristics with your favorite console, which is a unique new feature. You can now send directly on fader, so I could hold this send button and send to something such as a reverb or delay directly from fader. One of our new features is this stereo width tool. By holding shift and controlling our stereo widener, we could widen our stereo sides, or we could go counterclockwise and select a frequency at which we collapse to mono, or we could go all the way directly to mono. One of my favorite new features here is layer mode, and this is unique to any fader product on the market. Let's see how it works. I set some different levels in my DAW. I come on in and I hit assign track to layer. I'm going to create a VCA, and let's put it on this 4th fader. I'm going to select a few different tracks here, hit OK, and enter layer mode. This fader now becomes a VCA to control my selected tracks. Let's look at what that looks like in my DAW. You can see the DAW volume going up and down. Now let's say we needed to make an individual adjustment. It's as simple as you get out of layer mode, you make those individual adjustments here, go back into layer mode, and it proportionately controls all those adjustments that you made in your DAW.
Wow, fantastic. So this is the first public showing of the Fader 1. When can we expect it to be in the shops?
It's starting to have pre-order sales now. And
Excellent. And what sort of price are we looking at?
Street price is $699 in the US.
Fantastic. Well, can't wait to get our hands on it. Thanks, Todd.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Sam.